Hi everybody, Stacey Calder from the Business Success Network and magazine here. I'm delighted to be sharing this podcast today with the one and only Gary Jones. And let's face it, he basically does all the techie stuff on our podcast. So he makes me look and sound good, hopefully. Right, so without further ado, I'm going to bring him in because we've got lots to talk about today. Hi Gary.
Hey Stacey, how are you doing? You all right?
I am good. So we are we've been recording these for a couple of weeks now. We are blazing through the themes and the topics. And today we're going to talk about podcasting, which is obviously your speciality. And we're going to throw in some social media stuff as well, just so I know what I'm talking about, really.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds like a plan. Yeah.
So, you know better than anyone. I've been asking kind of 3 questions. And the first one is, who are you? It sounds a bit like Cilla Black, doesn't it? Who are you? Where'd you come from? But who are you? Where can people find you? And what are kind of your expertise? What have you been up to?
Brilliant. So my name's Gary Jones and I'm from Grow, and I give business owners the confidence to engage their audiences online. 9 times out of 10, that is through the means of podcasting. So that is by creating content and coaching them to launch their own show, or if they've got their own show, to ignite it and make it just a little bit more special. So that's what I'm doing a lot of at the moment. They find me on every podcast platform under the Grow Show. Get the hang right, the Grow Show. But also, I do produce different people's podcasts, and we've been working together on this podcast right from the very start. And this mini series that are all about marketing assets and how to create authority is fantastic. So it's been a pleasure to work with you on this. It's been great.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to work with you. You are kind of, I'd say you're one of the oldest people I network with, but I didn't mean it like that. I meant it as in we've networked for a long, long time now. And we've worked together on numerous projects. So I'm really glad that you are one of our experts in the Business Success Network. And I'm also doubly glad that you helped me on these podcasts, because let's face it, it wouldn't happen without you nudging me. So podcasting then, you know, it's kind of all the rage at the minute, right? Lots of people are doing it, but there's still so many businesses that aren't utilizing this. How do people use it then to gain authority? What's the kind of reasoning for it?
There's 3 main ways. And podcasts, just like videos, just like blogs, are a great way to tell your story online. Now, we heard from Sass Huntwood in a previous episode, and she was talking about storytelling and the importance of actually sharing your messages with your audiences. Well, podcasts are great because they're audio. So, unlike a video or blog where you have to physically be in one location and absorb it by looking at that subject, podcast, you can do other stuff at the same time, listen to them. So you can go for walks and listen to a podcast. You can drive. You can do the washing up. You can do all those bits that you might not be able to do with videos and blogs, which means that during the day, people will listen to podcasts and absorb it in different ways at different times. So they are really, really accessible.
And that's great, actually. And it just made me think, you're talking about audio and accessibility and listening to them while you're doing other things. And actually, if we're going to talk about social media as well, we're seeing the rise of Clubhouse at the minute, which is very, it's all audio based. And it makes me, I've seen people that suddenly get Clubhouse that go, do you know what? I think I need a podcast because I can do this.
Yeah.
And maybe vice versa.
Yeah, yes and no. Yeah, Clubhouse, the beauty of Clubhouse is that you can talk to people. And that is the fundamental great thing about podcast. It's a one-time here. You can't go back and re-listen. You've got to be there to do it. So FOMO plays a big part in Clubhouse's ethos. And that's also down to the fact that not everyone can go to Clubhouse and join Clubhouse. So FOMO plays a big part in Clubhouse. The audio aspect is brilliant, and it's raising the popularity of voice-driven content online, which is fantastic. So I'm not going to knock it because it's great. However, podcasting has been around since the late 90s. Do you know what? It's going to be here for, many, many years to come. What Clubhouse is going to evolve into, we will see over the next 6 months.
If it involves,
Yeah, exactly. However, podcasting is a tool to for a business to tell their audiences about updates, share content, get their guests, get their suppliers, their clients, their sponsors to come in to talk about what they've done. That tool's going to be around for years.
And actually, you hit a really good nail on the head there. You said about, podcasting has been around since the 90s. I think back in the 90s and somewhat until the last few years, it was very much about bigger businesses and influencers using it. It hadn't quite been grasped by the small businesses yet. And now we're seeing more and more people jump into the podcast arena. And it's been, well, I would say down to people like you that have really been shouting about podcasts for quite a while now.
I can remember when I first started to listen to podcasts, and these were kind of 12 to 14 years ago, around that kind of time. They were very much a very small band of kind of almost college and amateur kind of groups kind of talking about really niche topics. So at that time I was listening to a podcast all about marathons and about triathlons because that's what I was interested in. And now it's now become a really good tool to be able to do it. And it's gone through different evolutions, just like social media has, just like videos and blogs and all that kind of stuff. But in essence, it is about storytelling. It's about sharing that knowledge and how. That's actually one of the oldest forms of storytelling. It's just sitting around a campfire talking. And what podcasts do, I've just made this link. They just literally put it onto an online format, which they could do that. That could well be
Brilliant,
my new
isn't it?
40 or 60 seconds. It's that simple. It's that campfire online.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Let's all get around the campfire and tell stories, create podcasts, and look, podcasts are great content for your socials as well, aren't you? So I know we said we were going to talk a little bit about social media, but actually,
yes.
And you are, you are very clued up in the social media space as well, and I think, good ways of getting podcasts out there are across people's socials. So you talked about niches there. You talked about the different things you were listening to. And there's so much you could, listen to in terms of podcasts. And, you've only got to type in those niches and they'll come up. Same with social. You've talked about storytelling. We know that the best social media content is those stories. People don't want to see the sales posts. Actually, it doesn't do anything for your authority or your credibility. It's that they want to feel like they're part of the process. They want to get to know you. They want to behind the scenes of your business almost. So the podcast actually is another brilliant way of doing all of those things and having content on your socials.
That's it. And people think that actually having a podcast is adding workload to their existing marketing mix. I don't see it like that. I see it as enhancing their marketing mix and as a separate tool, just like you would view videos and blogs. And what you'll find is that you have one big idea that you want to share with different people. And then you kind of look at your audience and go, okay, what's the best way of giving my audience that idea? And it could be through podcasting like we're doing now. It could be through video. It could be through blogs. But it doesn't have to be just one. It can be all of them plus so much more. The social media content then is, in my mind, a layer below that, because that's when you actually share it. So, for instance, we're recording this podcast through the central idea of how to use your marketing assets to create authority, or words to that effect. And we're talking about podcasting. Now, we're also recording it via StreamYard, so therefore we're putting it onto YouTube. We're probably going to create a blog about the whole series, and then we're going to have social content from there. So from that one idea, you're getting all of that content,
I'm so pleased.
Power.
I'm so pleased you said that, because I was just sat here thinking, all my social media clients, I always say to them, and I have done for many, many years now, actually, if you start with a blog or an article, I say article because, magazines, no plug here, shameless plug. But actually, we look at that article, and a good social media manager will create 15 pieces of content from that blog, and it's the same with a podcast. You've got the pull quotes, you've got the story behind it, like you've just said. So I'm really pleased that you touched on that, because I think it's such an important thing. When someone says, oh, it's a podcast, it's another 20-30 minutes out of my day plus editing plus this, actually it's giving yourself it's reusable content as well.
That's it, and that's the beauty of it. And for me, the simplest way of people getting involved with podcasting, because when I'm talking to people in networking meetings, just online anyway, about podcasts, they tend to fall into three different camps. They tend to be the people who maybe have no idea what a podcast is at the very basic level. So therefore, actually, do you know what? The best thing that they can do if you have no idea about podcasting at all is to start listening to podcasts. It sounds simple, but start actually going on to somewhere like Spotify, somewhere like Apple Podcasts, and typing in a keyword or key phrase that you like, or if you know one of your favorite kind of comedians or celebrities has a podcast, start listening to it. Just start doing it. So they're the people who don't really know what a podcast is, start to get absorbed into that world. But then you've also got the people who might have kind of heard a few shows, and they might have even been on a few shows. Actually, probably very much to where you were when you first started this podcast. And they're kind of thinking, well, what can I do next? They're the kind of people who need to kind of listen to more, maybe think about starting their own, but then utilizing their existing content. So look at their blogs and look at the videos and see how that works in. And then you've got the top percentile at the moment, but that gap's getting shorter. The gap's getting really narrow now. But they're the people who want their own show. They're the people who want to share people's stories. They're the people who have listened to podcasts and know what they love and what they hate about their shows. And they might have even been on a few shows themselves and gone through the interview process. But they're really the people who are passionate about it. They've got the energy, and they're not afraid to give it a go. Even if it's for a 6-episode or 12-episode series, they'll just give it a go. They'll make a plan and they'll get it sorted.
And I think that is key, actually, because before we did this episode, we jumped onto a StreamYard. We were gonna go for it, weren't we? We were going to record one. And actually what we said was, by doing that plan, by working it out and talking it through together, I said, hang on a minute, why am I talking about, 8 or 9 different assets to build credibility? Because yes, I can, that's what I do. But actually, by bringing in these expert individuals, it's not just me talking on a podcast, because nobody wants that. But it's giving, well, it's true, isn't it? But it's giving the guests a voice and showcasing them, which we're all about here. But also it's adding to their authority and to my authority to be able to have this network of experts. So the listeners really, like I said, it was never going to be a series that had all these guests in until we sat down and you basically did what I normally do to people on me, which is plan and accountability.
Well, the great thing about me standing kind of separating myself from yourself as the person who's got this idea is that I know that it can be refined, and I spend a lot of my time refining ideas, because you can waste thousands of pounds worth of equipment, and it can literally be fancy paperweights or just sitting on the shelf doing nothing. And you can get all that equipment first, then refine the idea. But what if you actually refined your idea? What if you got your idea, your show nailed down, all planned out, and then you buy all the equipment and get it all sorted? That's going to be more powerful doing it that way, rather than spending all that time on the equipment, doing all the research, which you can do, and then the podcast won't go anywhere. And what a shame that will be. So work on the idea, work on refining that idea first. And that's what we did. We literally worked on the idea first, and then we figured out how to do it.
It was brilliant, because I am very much an ideas person. I'll just, come along to you or Simon, the designer, or, Raj, who prints, and I'll go, right, ta-da! And Simon will tell you I'm a bit of a nightmare in his messenger. I'll go, I've had this idea, and he's thinking, oh no, because I have the ideas, he creates them. Same with you in the podcast. It was literally, right, we're going to talk about assets, we're going to talk about authority. What should we do? Shall I, I've got 30 different assets here we could use. You were brilliant. We're not talking about 30 assets. Let's break it down to like 8. Let's get some guests in. And actually, it's worked brilliantly. And I've really enjoyed speaking to each and every one of the guests. So
that's brilliant. And the beauty of it is, and I suppose this could be kind of the final point if you wanted to start creating your own podcast, is work out these 3 different questions. The first question is literally work out how your podcast fits into your strategy, and not just your business strategy, but your life. It takes time and energy to kind of make a podcast. So you've got to make sure it fits into your strategy in terms of what you want to do and what your business wants to do. Then you've got to work out what your audience wants to listen to. And with yourself, it's quite simple. You know, you could do a podcast just you talking quite easily, but actually your audience loves the network. So get the network involved.
Absolutely.
And then the third point is start planning your shows and make one key point per show. And that's what we did. So work out how it fits into your strategy, work out what the audience wants to listen to, and then work out how it fits into your shows. That's a simple plan to create the podcast. That's what we did. That's what anybody listening or watching can do.
That is brilliant, absolutely amazing. And I was just about to say, what are your 3 top tips? And you knew what I was going to say, and you've done it. Gary,
it's like we've already planned it.
It is, isn't it? It is like we've already planned it. And you know, podcasting, it's brilliant. I love it. Where can people, apart from obviously the Meet the Experts panel on the website, where can people find you? Where can they get hold of your services?
So my full name for my company is Grow Marketing and Media. So basically find me on social. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as Grow M and Media, Grow Marketing and Media. But my name's Gary Jones. I've got an upside down head. So look for my profile picture where I'm going like that. And I'll be there. I'll be there.
Brilliant, Gary. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. It's not like I won't see you anytime soon because we've got some more to record, haven't we? So
We have.
Honestly, it's always a pleasure, Gary. I will speak to you very soon.
Cheers, Stacey. See you later.